Welcome to the first annual LL Hoops Berksbeat preview special, live from Cocalico. Look at here, Bruce Badgley and the man, the myth, the legend, Andy Brackets. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. Thank you for setting this all up. I know we're a little bit tardy, but that's okay. We figured it out. So thanks again to Cocalico for letting us in the building tonight. And sorry, I'm figuring this all out too. I need to speak a little bit louder. I understand. So we'll figure this out yet. But yeah, thanks again for Cocalico. And yeah, Bruce's season's here. Just a couple more days, and we'll get this cranked up for real, and games will count. And I'll get out of my summer league and fall league mode that I've been in for the last couple months here. So it's definitely exciting for sure.
Yeah, it's exciting for us to, we started with streaming, Berksbeat and LL Hoops games last year. Obviously, you can tell, this is live TV here, or live internet streaming, whatever you want to call it. But, it was so funny. We just had a gentleman stop over who said that, how he really enjoyed what we're doing, putting these games on, giving people that don't have an opportunity to get to the games to enjoy the games, and that's really what this is all about, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And with LL Hoops, it's now our 20th anniversary this year, and LL Hoops has always kind of been a step ahead of the curve in terms of competitors or things like that, and the live streaming aspect that we introduced last year is just another entity of that. So yeah, we're looking for bigger and better things with our live streaming that we had last year. I know we have another spectacular docket of games, weather permitting. If you have some wood, knock on it and hope that Mother Nature cooperates with us. But yeah, the live streaming thing, that's a big thank you to you, Bruce, for bringing that on. And to your point, I think a lot of our fans really enjoyed that, especially the league finals, which hopefully we get the chance to do again this year as well. So.
Yeah, thanks to Alvernia University. They're really the ones that, stepped up and have helped us all along the way, providing equipment, providing students, and what have you. So, we're going to just jump right in. There's no other way to do it. For me, it was, really nice for you and Dell to kind of let me, latch on because, I'm an Indiana guy. I grew up following basketball, and basketball was my passion growing up. A lot of people know me from football. I migrated to where, a lot of passion was in Pennsylvania. But, Andy, you follow the LL League better than, obviously, I think anybody. You've got 5 sections. I've only got 3. So we'll start with you first. What's your outlook really on, Section 5? And who do you think is going to come out on top?
Section 5, for the last couple of years, I know the introduction of 5 sections is still relatively new, and I think we're all still trying to figure that out. And besides the griping of there's 5 sections, that's way too many. It's still usually the same couple teams that we've had in the old Section 4 and things like that. And for the last couple years, specifically, it's really been Lancaster Mennonite, Columbia, and kind of those usual suspects. But I say that with a big but. The Section 5 facelift the Section 5 outlook got a major facelift this year because Elijah Terry, who I think pound for pound is one of the best players in the entire league, he's no longer at Mennonite. He's now at McCaskey. So that's definitely going to really change the outlook for Section 5. But I mentioned Columbia. They're going to be right there. This is an interesting fact about them. They had no seniors last year, and they went to the league playoffs, and obviously they were a playoff team, as I just said. So what's going to be interesting with Columbia is I know Robert Footman, who was a starter for them, he got nicked up in football this past year, so I'm not sure what his prognosis is for hoops. But if there's a team out there that really has the ability to kind of caress over that, loss of a starter, it's Columbia, because Coach Glover, for those of you that know in the local scene, and his whole entire Tide team as a whole, they're just basketball junkies, man. Like, they're over at Nook all the time. If there's an opening in the fall league or the summer league, he'll make them play. He doesn't care who it is. He'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime. So, but yeah, Columbia is definitely a team I have my eye on. But I just mentioned Mennonite. I don't know where they're going to really stack up in the Section 5 race. And I think Anvil Cleona, interestingly enough, Dell's alma mater, shout out to him, is going to maybe be the team to take that mantle. I love the Long brothers, Andrew and Adam Long. In terms of the quote-unquote lower sections, 3, 4, and 5, they're definitely one of they're my best duo of guards, and I would rank them up against the very best in the entire league. continuing on Section 5, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. You're right. There are so many sections. There are so many teams. Special shout out to Lebanon Catholic. I hope I'm saying this right, Coach. Mi entrenador de baloncesto favorito. Coach, I don't know if that was correct, but I know we said we'd get you a Spanish take, but that's what 4 semesters of Spanish looks like from a Big Ten university, so I have no idea if that was good or not. But, Coach, I wanted
That's
to...
about what I had, too, from a Big Ten university.
Right. So I just wanted to shout him out. And then this is my usual PSA, Devin Collier at Pequay Valley. I love the kid. Trust me, you have to go check out a Pequay Valley game and just watch this kid play. He's still relatively young, but when I saw him as a freshman, I was blown away. I really thought he was like a senior out there. Just the way he kind of sets the table for Pequay Valley offensively. He's really a sight to behold. He's a great, great player that not a lot of people know about, and hopefully they will. But, yeah, Section 5, man, it's going to be fun. And in terms of teams, I got my eye on Columbia for sure.
This is excellent, being right in front of practice here. I mean, you couldn't have picked a better spot. Andy picked this spot, so thank you very much. I mean, for me, I'm going to start with Section 3 in the Berks League. You know, Kutztown has kind of ruled Section 3 over the last couple of years, but going to be a little bit different story this year. Everybody's picking Schuylkill Valley. I really like Brandywine Heights quite
all year long from start to finish in the league. Start at the top. I mean, Lancaster Catholic, need I say more? I mean, they're always they are a tradition-rich program, and I don't think this year's really going to be any different. The one thing that's interesting with Catholic this year is they're going to have the Twin Towers aspect. David Kamwanga and Trey Wells, who is a kid I absolutely love. Kamwanga's more of that stretch 4. He's in the Kevin Durant type mold that I know is so popular, and that, you know, that's the type of basketball player, that kind of positionless age that we're in now. But I'm a sucker for back to the basket centers, and Trey Wells, he's one of the best in the entire league. And if you allow him to do his work early in the post and let him set up, there's not many guys in the Section 3 and Section 4 landscape that can really compete with him size-wise down there. So Catholic is definitely a team to keep an eye on. But then hot on their heels, I think it's going to be Elko. Elko is one of these teams that for the last couple years they've kind of been building and building and building, and this might be the crescendo to that whole effect that they have going up there in Myerstown with Coach Connors. So when you talk Elko, it's all perimeter oriented. If you've seen Cedar Crest, it's kind of the same type of spread out, penetrating pitch. They love the 3. They love to go up and down ad nauseum, which not a lot of other teams can kind of handle. But while they are very guard oriented with guys like Braden Bohannon, who just a disclaimer, I'm sure he's going to lead the league in charges taken this year. That's his forte. Evan Huey is another kid I love. He's just an absolute pit bull. He's totally fearless. I saw him get nicked up at Nook. He was kind of dazed and confused, and he's like, "No, Coach, I can stay in the game." And it's like, Evan, no, you don't have it. But that's just kind of the will to win that he has. And then Angel Martinez is another guard that Elko has. But I know I'm kind of speaking on the guards for Elko, but there's another kid, Asher Kemble. And for those of you that have followed me and kind of my tweeting and my writing over the last couple of years, you know I'm very high on this kid. And I think this is going to be the year where Asher really elevates his game to really be that the added puzzle piece, I guess, if you will, because he's a big man. He can, you know, enforce inside. He can also stretch out to really go along with that perimeter-oriented game that Elko has. So he's definitely a quintessential piece to be added into that mix that's going to make them a incredible threat to the Section 4 crown. And then right behind them, if you really want to say behind them, it's kind of a 1A, 1B type thing. It's going to be Octorara. Still relatively new to, I think, LL fans, but I think we
got down there last year for a stream game.
You did, and I know that got rave reviews. I know Dell loves it down there. I do too. The fans just get raucous down there in a good way. But, I mean, they definitely make their presence felt down there. That's true. Like a lot of gyms in that Section 4 area of Section 5. But, yeah, I mean, Octorara, Coach Lambert, he's one of the legends that we have in this area. He does such a great job. Najee Hamilton, again, another big man in Section 4, which is kind of rare. I mean, this is like a little bit of rarefied air where you got big guys in Section 4 where you don't really have that. It's kind of more reserved for Section 1 and Section 2. But he's definitely somebody that is a fantastic piece to the Octorara puzzle this year. And then Northern Lebanon, Coach, I know you're watching. I got to give you some love too. Peyton Wolf, he's one of the more underrated players in the entire league. And I know you were up there the other year. Weird things happen, man, when you get in that small gym with the mustard walls.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, we had a blast. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the best part about, doing this is, getting around to all the different gymnasiums.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you get a team that's maybe kind of riding that crescendo and maybe undefeated and they go up to Fredericksburg, don't be surprised if Northern Lebanon knocks somebody off. And then obviously I think better things are in store for Donegal than they had last year. So in Section 4, I pretty sure I hit everybody as best I possibly could in an abbreviated version with no notes. So I don't know. Maybe it's all up here, but that's about the only thing that's going on up here. So I'll hand it back over to you.
You just have to love this guy's passion. I mean, and I'm not entirely sure which camera I'm looking at here now because our show producer, kind of moved us around here, Lewis. But thanks to Lewis, I mean, duct tape, baling wire, figuring out what the heck, we got on the air here. Sorry about having to, switch up the link and what have you. But you can always go to Small Player, Big Play. Link is there as well that they can watch it. And, that's where the link where all these games are going to be in Small Player, Big Play this year. So thanks to them for, all their support. For me, next I want to talk about Berks 2. It's been Berks Catholic that's ruled Berks 2 for, as long as they've been Berks Catholic, quite honestly. Totally different story this year. Why I'm missing definitely the team, with athleticism and returning starters looking to take over that crown. I wouldn't discount Berks Catholic, but I think Wyomissing is a pretty clear favorite to take that division. Conrad Weiser is going to have some good height. I mean, when you talk about, back to the basket guys, I think that's going to be the Berks League this year. I think there's going to be plenty of guys that can play back to the basket. But I really believe Wyomissing is going to be the, the class of Berks 2 there, and Berks Catholic is going to give them a run for the money. But I think that Wyomissing is really going to win that quite handily. For you, it's still in Section 3.
Section 3, that's where these boys play, Calico. This is another section which, by the way, I did want to say this about just kind of looking forward to the entire LL for really all 5 sections. I think this is going to be a unique year, Bruce, in the sense that there's really no Goliath that's entering the season, which is kind of a good news, bad news scenario, right? Like, you don't have a team that's really, okay, they're going to roll through whatever section they're in, and they're going to, they're a shoo-in for the district final, and then how deep are they going to go in state playoffs? I don't really know if there's a team like that this year, but again, the good news for that is it's going to be ultra competitive through all 5 sections, and Section 3 is really no different. If you're coming up with a pecking order, I guess you really have to start with LS. They've really been the stalwart in that section the last couple of years. Beers is coming back for his senior season. Again, one of the better players in the league. LS is still going to have that height to go along with the guard play. So really not much changes for the Pioneers. Surprise, surprise. And then with the rest of the teams in Section 3, I think honestly, you can probably throw a dartboard and figure out who else is going to get that Section 3 bid to get into the league playoffs. I think it can be these guys, honestly. Because if you look around, Manheim Central loses a lot. Chase Marquette graduated. Cam Sell graduated. Garden Spot, they're going to be a new look Garden Spot this year. For the last couple of years, they've been dominated. Well, not dominated. They've been dominating with the guard play with guys like Jacob Arnn and Keontae Nunn. They're no longer there. Brendan Bradley as well. But for the lack of the guard play they might be perceived to lack at the beginning of the season, Andrew Zettner, the Spartans big man, is a great piece to build around irregardless. So it's going to be a new look Garden Spot. Like I said, Calico's in here. Solanco, first-year head coach, and Coach Long. So Section 3, I think, I don't know. Somebody's going to get 2 bids out of this section for the league playoffs. So that's kind of my synopsis without having any sort of tangible evidence without the season having started thus far.
Well, that's the good part for us is we really don't need tangible evidence really at this time of year. I mean, it's really all guesswork because, it's all about expectations now. It's all about the offseason. You see these guys year-round a lot more than I do, so I think you probably have a little bit more as far as, what you can tell related to what the team chemistry is going to be. But for me, I'm so since I really moved into the area, in the 90s and now here through the 2000s. This is going to be one of the most interesting Berks One basketball league schedules in some time. The Goliath that we've got is obviously Wilson. This is, a 22-win team returning 4 starters, one of which is,
Offers every day, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. Stevie Mitchell. But, the Evan Timochenko, I mean, really one of my favorite guys to watch play. For a big guy, boy, I love him on the outside. I think he's more effective on the outside and more of a mismatch on the outside than inside. And I think he's going to have a difficult time playing inside because, as we go through here, Berks One has some height. Lewis and I were listening to Coach Perez talk to Paul Roberts today, and he seemed he's had to change his coaching style over the fact that he's got all these bigs on his roster there, but they're very young. Clearly, I think that
in there either. Avante's he can mix it up inside too, so he's another big guy, big body that can mix it up for Wilson. So I know I'm kind of stealing your thunder, but again, this is another team I do see in the summer. So yes, I have seen Wilson, and you're right, very, very impressive in Berks One.
Yeah, but I think that clearly they're the favorite. Reading High is kind of in uncharted territory with this height. I mean, not uncharted in the fact that they're not going to be good, uncharted in the way that they're going to win. They're going to have to see who's going to be able to shoot the ball. They're going to get a lot of fouls. Foul shooting, I think, is going to be critical for that team this year. But you can't forget about a team like Governor Mifflin either. They got a couple of twin towers on the inside, Cameron Stewart and Claire. Those are a couple of guys that are going to play back to the basket and, take up some space. Exeter, they got Alex Javier. The first game that you and I did was in this gym seeing Alex Javier and Exeter, and he made a 3/4 court shot, and that was 3 years ago.
He's still there.
He is, and he kudos to Alex as well. He did get an offer today for football for William and Mary, so good for him. But, Exeter, new coach there, that's going to be very interesting. And Muhlenberg, we didn't even mention them. They were the last team standing in the state tournament last year for all the Berks County teams. So I think that there's some question marks there. Obviously, a coaching staff of Marquise Marshall and my buddy Ty Nesby. I mean, at least from a height department, I don't think there's any more height on a coaching staff in Berks County, but. It really is going to be interesting. One of the most interesting races in some time, and but it is going to be difficult to have any one of those teams supplant Wilson, I think. But it'll be a fun regular season, that's for sure. Up to Section 2 for you now.
Yeah, let's keep it going here. Section 2, again, another interesting section in the fact that if you're asking me to prognosticate who maybe the best teams are from top to bottom going into the season, I think they reside right here in Warwick and E-Town, which is kind of ironic because for those of you that, are LL fans of sports in general, a lot of those skill position names that you saw in football, guess what? They're started for basketball, and they are just as good. Joey McCracken won the MVP of the Why I'm Missing Summer League. So that just kind of tells you how good he is. A league which, by the way, Stevie Mitchell was also in, Timochenko, Lockhart, all those guys, Caligo in as well. So that really tells you how good he is kind of leading the crew for Warwick. Only a junior, by the way, which as a Warwick guy, I can tell you he will be on the Mount Rushmore of Warwick athletes before his time is done because he has another year in both sports. So
that's been kind of the between the Rucci's and now him there. I mean, you're kind of in the glory days of athleticism there.
Right. And again, that's another great point. I've said this before. The Warwick guys that are rolling through that school right now would just decimate our guys right now, which is a total compliment to Coach Christensen and that entire staff for really building something which has been so desperately and badly needed for Warwick. So that's great to see. But they're bigger than McCracken. I mean, Schmitz is back. Gerhardt's back, Connor Adams, Minnick at point. Warwick is very deep, but then right behind them, in terms of talking points, not really taking a backseat talent-wise, is definitely E-Town. I said this in Dell and I's preseason podcast. I think the culture at E-Town is just so fantastic and structured, and it's rock solid, because I saw them in the summer league when they had their full complement of guys, which, again, spare me that it's summer league, it doesn't count. As soon as the game's over, it doesn't matter. Baloney on that is what I'm calling, because if you can get guys in the summer when there's football going on, baseball's going on, Coach, I was swimming today, I don't feel like coming out. When you can get that type of buy-in in the summer, when, again, games don't really matter, that's so huge. And, again, a lot of these guys like Ryan Parise, Elijah Eberle, you've heard their names for years and years and years. You didn't get rid of them. They're back. So that's going to be another team to definitely keep an eye on is E-Town. Shout out to Coach Parise. There is no better Twitter game in the LL than that.
We learned that last year doing the game over there. That was fun. Right.
And then while E-Town and Warwick might be the two quote-unquote better teams in Section 2, Lebanon is another team, tradition-rich program, that is going to be right there in the mix to possibly steal one of those two bids out of Section 2 for the LL playoffs. Luke Collins was a freshman I saw who I love that kid. You talk about another fearless Lebanon guard. Surprise, surprise. They're all fearless up there, but he's just another one. Luke's kind of that guy where if you're playing pickup, you might not pick him first, but you will desperately regret that because he will embarrass you. He is that good. And then they also have another big in JC holding down the fort there for the Cedars in the post. And then you talk about CV and effort also in that section. I think with those three teams kind of stacked ahead of them, the unfortunate part for that is they're kind of a victim of their own size, because it's kind of like, where are you going to put them at? I don't think they're also Rams by any stretch of the imagination, but it's like you have E-Town, you have Warwick, you have Lebanon, and then, oh, by your way, your crossovers are Section 1. So there's really no favors there for the Bucks and the Mounts. But I'm sure, Coach Herr, I told him before, he missed his calling in life. He's a great coach. He's an even better comedian. I love that guy. And then, obviously Coach Treese at Effort, he does a fantastic job. A Muhlenberg guy came over from Muhlenberg. So, that's kind of my outlook on Section 2. Another great section to keep an eye on, and again, an ultra-competitive league from top to bottom this year.
And in Berks, we're going to talk about the girls. We're going to do some girls games in our streaming this year. Really transcendent player at Twin Valley, Peyton McDaniel, really just an outstanding player. But Alexis Hess at Fleetwood in Section 2, I don't think I've ever seen a girl, at least in Berks County girls basketball, hit it with such fanfare. I mean, all off season, she's been playing in all these all-star games and what have you. So Alexis Hess, if you don't know her now, you will definitely by the end of the season know her. I expect my buddy Kevin Calabria over at Wilson in Section 1. I was fortunate enough to call all the 6 state championship games for girls basketball last year on NFHS Network. And, boy, I just came to really appreciate the girls' game that much more. So I'm really interested to see how, the Berks regular season is going to stack up. I really like, Twin Valley in Section 1. Section 2, Fleetwood and Berks Catholic. Section 3, probably Wyomissing will come out on top there. And for you, hey, here's the big one here. Section 1 of the LL. What do you got to say about that, Andy?
Again, another competitive section this year. This is usually when I talked about, favorites to maybe make a deep run in postseason state-wise, really. This is normally where these teams come about. I think of the old McCaskey teams, Township last year, Cedar Crest the last couple of years. I think, really, this is another dartboard-type section. Cedar Crest brings back Larry, the big man inside, Eberhard inside. Again, another year of the big man, I guess, in the LL. They're going to figure out how to play that, again, penetrate and pitch, 5 wide. They'll figure that out. Manheim Township is another team I saw in the summer I think is going to be a fantastic team to keep an eye on. Zach Oldak is, I said in the podcast, back for his 17th year. I love the way that kid plays. And again, speaking on big men, Ben Mann's coming back this year. I love the way he mixes it up inside, and he might be that cut stopper, for Township when maybe things go a little bit sideways, which I don't know if they've really had the last couple of years, to be honest with you. So I like Township. I mentioned the facelift that Section 5 got with Terry going over to McCaskey. That, in my opinion, drastically changes the Section 1 race, because McCaskey, I think, is going to be they always are a team to keep an eye on, but with arguably the best team in the league, the best player in the league at their disposal running the show, that is really going to do wonders for the Red Tornado this year. And Coach Ramos, a fantastic guy, the right guy for McCaskey. Obviously, the situation with Coach Powell, nobody wanted to see that, but in terms of getting the right guy to do the job at McCaskey, they couldn't have hit it out of the park any better with Coach Ramos. And again, I know I'm kind of talking about Elijah Terry, but here's all I really need to say. I saw Mennonite's game against Newman-Goretti, which is, I'm sorry, the best program in the entire state of this decade. He dropped 30 on him. I don't think I really need to say any more. When you score 30 on Newman-Goretti, you're doing something right. So, Section 1, Hempfield. Again, maybe a team that's maybe not the sexiest pick preseason, but again, selfishly and biasly, I played for Coach Walk. I know how smart of a man he is with the X's and O's. Well, Hempfield might not blow you away in terms of who gets off the bus for them this year. Trust me, you're going to have to play their game, and once you get into that nitty-gritty, meat grinder type game, there's really none better than Coach Walk in terms of that. So Hempfield will definitely be a factor in the race. They will beat somebody who, you look at the standings going into that game, maybe they're not supposed to win that game. They probably will win that game, whoever that may be. And then Penn Manor. I wanted to give another shout-out to Coach Bellew. I know we made him either the coach of the year in Section 1 or the coach of the year in Section 1, which was so deserving. They won so many close games down the stretch last year, and I know they're going to, take some hits with losing Roldan, who, ran the point for them, but if Coach Bellew can kind of replicate that year he had last year in Millersville, again, that's just going to be another team to look forward to, and an ultra-competitive 5-section league-wide race down to the finish to Manheim Township come Valentine's Day weekend, when we finally figure out who's going to win this thing. So I'm excited. I don't know about you. Hopefully we can still Coach Sigmund, get his input, and I'll turn it back over to you quick to kill some time.
Yeah, why don't you go, grab him around the neck there. And listen, we want to thank you very much for, staying with us here. We are going to have a lot of games streaming, live this year. The LL schedule has pretty much been announced. Our first game is going to be January 7th, Exeter and Muhlenberg. And, we're going to kind of announce it as we go, see how the season and the weather take us. So we're going to bring Andy back in. Andy, ready? Okay, our show producer, Lewis, get him all squared away here. We got our guest. Why don't you take it from here?
All right. Thank you, Bruce. Joined here by the man of the hour. Yes, speak right into the mic. That's going to be my coaching advice to you. So I'll make you run laps if you don't cooperate. So
that would be very nice.
This is Coach Sigmund at Calico. So, Coach, first of all, thank you for having us out tonight. A huge pleasure. I guess the first things first, I know you and I talked about this in the offseason. In the fall particularly, you really didn't know when you were going to get your full complement of guys. So for those of you that know or don't know, unfortunately for Calico, they lost their state semifinal league football or state semifinal football game on Friday night, but kind of good news for you is you do get those guys back. So I know it's very early in the process, but kind of how have those football guys looked getting into basketball shape? Because as you know, it's much different playing football where you're going full blast for 7 to 8 seconds. In basketball, you're going 30 seconds to a minute up and back with possibly no stoppages. So how have they looked getting into basketball shape, and then also integrating into that group that was here all throughout fall and kind of picking up where they left off in the summer?
Well, fortunately for us, they did play with us all summer long, so it wasn't like they didn't know what they were doing or anything like that. But this is actually their first night in the gym.
We know how to pick it.
So what you're seeing here tonight is we're seeing it all for the first time too. So a couple of them were a little dinged up from the football season. That's kind of to be expected, especially when when you played as long as they did, I mean, it's going to happen. So we're kind of easing them back in tonight. They're not supposed to be doing everything, full contact, full speed tonight, but they kind of jump in there when we're not looking so closely because they're amped to get back and then they want to get started. But yeah, as far as like integrating them back into things, like it's kind of a process, just like day by day. Unfortunately, it's few days because we play on Friday, so we're trying to get them in there light tonight, but then they're pretty much going full bore the next 2 nights because then we play Friday, Saturday. So, we're trying to ease them back in tonight, but then it's kind of go time after that. So we gotta get them ready.
Now, I'm curious. I know there's a couple schools like Central kind of has to equate for that where they make their early season schedule. And Calico, they've historically been a good football program. I mean, is that something you kind of have to consider when you're making a preseason schedule?
Well, I guess it was 2 seasons ago where they went to the week 0 game. That was big for us because it moved everything up a week. So that was big. We haven't played in a tip-off tournament. Before I was the varsity coach, we had stopped doing the tip-off tournament because of the football thing. But with them moving it up a week, that helped tremendously as far as giving us a little flexibility. Because if you don't play in the tip-off, then you're looking to try to stick those 2 non-leagues somewhere else, and all of a sudden you got like 3 back-to-backs 3 weeks in a row or something ridiculous. So, yeah, it's definitely in the back of our minds always because our football team's always really, really good. So, it is something we have to think about. But as far as tip-off tournament, we were still able to get in one, and we got them for a couple practices before then anyway.
Now, how have your preseason scrimmages gone? I know you played a couple teams. I mean, again, you were somewhat depleted not having the entire complement, but I see you laughing. But I mean, how did that go? I mean, I'm just kind of curious how that looks, again, getting your sea legs under you, so to speak, and then also not having the full complement.
Well, so the first scrimmage, well, even the last one, we obviously didn't have the football guys, so that makes a big difference. The first one we scrimmaged Manheim Township and Haverford, and they're both very good. So we've got a lot of sophomores on the floor. I think our starting group was 3 sophomores, a junior and a senior, and then with 2 sophomores coming off the bench. So I thought we improved a lot from the first scrimmage to the next scrimmage. So that's kind of what we were looking for, just improvement, play the right way, do things the right way, and not so much worry about the score, but just worry about us taking care of ourselves and trying to improve from week to week. And I thought our young guys played really well this past Saturday against Warwick and Cedar Cliff.
You talked about conditioning. You talked about the guys getting into it. Here, what's your philosophy on in season? On how you guys, change your conditioning. How do you guys, change up from full intensity? I mean, how does that work for you, throughout the season?
Well, so preseason obviously we got to get everybody in shape, and that's go hard all the time. Once we start games, there will be weeks where we play Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something like that. So we're not doing all the crazy conditioning stuff on a week like that. We're also trying to incorporate weight room stuff into things too. So, practices shorten up a little bit as the season goes on, and you're not doing the crazy, like we call them defensive stations and 14 drill and stuff like that we do that is solely to condition and work on ball handling, things like that, but mostly just to get you in shape. So that stuff, if we do it, we shorten up the time on it a lot, and you can't be doing stuff like that in a 3-game week on a Thursday when we played Monday, Wednesday, and we're about to play Friday. So yeah, it definitely changes. You shorten up practices a little bit, shorten up the time of the conditioning drills and stuff like that. So yeah, it definitely changes as the season progresses a little bit.
What's the craziest, game schedule you have ever had? I mean, some of these things are legendary, around here with weather and delays or whatever like that. What was the craziest one you've ever had?
Well, just last season, so we were, I think we were ranked 15th or 16th in district power points, and obviously top 16 make it. And we were we basically needed to win our last 3 games to get in. And with weather, we ended up having to play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, our last 3 games, 2 on the road, and we had to win them all to make districts. So that was pretty unbelievable last year. So yeah, you just never know what's going to happen. You can look at a week and think, oh, that's not too bad, but all of a sudden you get one extra game added into that week from a snow day or something like that, and it all of a sudden you're playing 4 games in 5 days or 3 games in 4 days or something. So I mean, you just kind of got to roll with it. Everybody's kind of in the same boat, so it's not typically a huge disadvantage because everyone has to do it. But yeah, definitely not the best case scenario when you end up with snow days pushed back, especially up against the end of the season like that last year.
I can't even imagine like football coaches having to deal with all the weather concerns that these basketball guys do. I marvel at your flexibility, not only obviously basketball, but wrestling and all the winter sports here. How you do that. Really, I want to thank you very much for allowing us to, be here. This is a lot of fun for me. You have one more question?
I got more for him. Do you want to know how I handicap the Section 3 race or not?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, okay.
No, but
I'd love to put it up on our whiteboard in the locker room.
it was pretty favorable for you.
Okay.
But no, in all seriousness, I mean, Section 3, it's going to be ultra competitive as it always is. Where do you think you kind of stack into the mix, and who should we be looking at from a coach's perspective in terms of the Section 3 race? Because I know last year there was a few people outside of here that were very high on you. That's an inside joke between us, but that's all right. But no, I mean, what do you think about Section 3 in 2019, 2020?
Well, until somebody beats LS, they have to be the pick. I mean, I don't remember, what is it, 3 straight, 4 straight? What is it that they've won Section 3? I don't remember exactly what it is, but
Too many for you.
Too many for us, absolutely. So until someone knocks them off, that's who I'm going to say is going to win it until someone proves me wrong. I think after that, it's a free-for-all after that. I think Garden Spot's going to be very good. I know Central's going to be scrappy. They're always a tough game, no matter what time of the season it is. Like, they're just a scrappy bunch of kids. Charlie does a great job with them.
Does he get more timeouts than anybody else? I want to know.
Well, it's either a lot of timeouts or holding the basketball. So he does a good job with it.
He does. We're kid coach.
He's got him ready always. So I mean, and we don't, the thing about Solanco, we don't know what they're going to do with a new coach. So that's an advantage they have. Like, we don't know what to expect from them. I mean, it's just there's so many teams that after LS it could finish in any order really. I mean, last year I think it was LS, then Garden Spot, then us, then Central, then Solanco. It could be the exact same again. It could flip flop. I mean, there's just after LS, I think everybody could beat anybody.
This won't make you feel any better, but I saw LS in the fall, and they gave Coatesville a run for their money with Brickus, who scored 50 in a state semifinal game. So I don't mean to make you have any more restless nights, but I just thought you might like to know that. So last thing, Coach, I know we'll let you get back to business here because you do have a game on Friday night. Just give me a couple names that maybe we aren't aware of on the Cocalico roster this year that really stepped to the forefront in the summer and then in the fall that you think LL fans really need to keep an eye on.
Well, I mean, everybody knows about Carter. Everybody knows about Trey Griffin. But some of our younger guys are sophomores that are going to get some time that, we're really high on. Augie Gerhardt, he's 6'4", can play inside, can play outside, can shoot a little bit, get to the rim. Just tonight in practice, he threw down a 2-hand hammer dunk, which, around here is fairly rare.
You guys love the 3. Yeah, that is different.
We like to shoot it from the outside. And the next guy, Trey Rios, sophomore, he's a shooter from the outside guy. We can't get too far from what we do. So, and Ronald Zom coming off of football, he's a little dinged up, but, he's a great athlete, real physical kid, really good defender. He's probably going to get the other team's best player every night. So there's lots of guys that are in the mix for minutes. We don't have like a superstar, but we have lots of guys that can do a lot of different things. So, we're excited. We think if things fall into place, guys buy into their roles, then we can be right there where we need to be at the end of the season.
Excellent stuff, Coach. Really appreciate it. We'll let you get back to business. I know you got Spring Grove on Friday night, so we will catch you down the road, and I'll be in the nest in no time. So, Coach, appreciate it. Thanks.
Sounds good.
Throw it back over to you, Bruce.
Well, it's been an awful lot of fun here tonight. We're going to have to do this a couple maybe times, like preseason or like at the quarter polls or whatever like that. This is an enormous amount of fun. We hope that you fans enjoyed it as well. And before I close, here we go.
So if there's going to be any comments about the shirt, I will explain this. I will explain this. So we're an LL outfit. We're doing a Berks preview. I figured why not give the York whatever they are, the YAIA. Yeah. Figured we give some love to them. And also Coach G at D-Town is an LL guy, so it comes full circle. And by the way, I think the gear is also very hot. So
I like the shirt. I really did. But I really was gonna ask you what's the deal with the D-Town?
That's the deal. So it's a non-threatening school on a night like tonight when we're doing our preview shows for LL and Berks. And I figured, to your point, we'll show some love to District 3 because we will catch you in York County or Berks or the Mid-Penn soon enough when these guys or another team from the LL makes the playoffs and hopefully is around to stay for a long time. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure if there's guys that are that just want to get involved in covering some of those sports or wants to cover basketball in York, in Mid-Penn, give Del Jackson a call. I mean, he afforded me the opportunity to get out and see some games and do reports. And if you know me, I've got to have my video highlights in there. But kudos to Del, 20-year anniversary here of LL Hoops, one of the premier basketball, if not the premier basketball website, here in Pennsylvania right now. So, Andy, thank you so much, man. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
It was. Thank you very much for coming out to now my neck of the woods, I guess.
And thanks to our show producer, Louis Galan. Listen, for Bruce Badgley, Andy Herr, Andy Brackets, Del Jackson, for Louis Galan, our show producer, we'll see you down the road, my friends.